Our subject today is the rule of thirds, and coincidentally, about how to make a pair of speakers sound good. All right. This comes from John in Ridgeland, Mississippi. And John says, a friend has dramatic improvements after reconfiguring his system using the rule of thirds. And he insisted that I try it despite my speakers being horns. The result was awful. Sorry about that. I have them near corners, widely spread, and crossing about 2 to 3 feet in front of me. I enjoy a wide but not finely defined soundstage with digital front end and high fidelity amps and preamps. Any ideas for improvements? Thanks, John. Well, I'm a little unclear about the question. It seems though maybe it's just me. I get a little convoluted there. You have horns, and you had good sound, and then a friend told you about the rule of thirds, and you moved your horns to the rule of thirds. Let's first talk about the rule of thirds. Let me grab my oh, sorry about that. Here's my notes. Microphone, Bascom. Okay. Rule of thirds. Let's say this is our room. And we're going to divide this thing up so that into thirds. That's approximately thirds, right? So the rule of thirds is pretty simple. It basically says in 1/3 of the room, I'm going to put you, and you're going to sit there, right? And now here and here are your speakers, and they triangulate there in a and so they're kind of pointing at you or pointing straight ahead, which I prefer, and then we get the off-axis response here at there's our ears. my grandson Henry, who, by the way, sorry, here Paul goes off on a little tangent. My grandson Henry is 5 years old, and much to his mother's horror but his father's delight, Papa showed him something that I don't know how many 5-year-olds can do, but I am so proud of this kid. You know what he does? Yeah. He can do it. And I taught him that. I'm very proud. So anyway, enough of that. This is the rule of thirds, and I suspect maybe what John was doing was something very different. Perhaps John did a more traditional application of horns. A lot of horns are placed in corners. Sometimes they're called corner horns, like the old JBLs. So, and then perhaps he was sitting here. Now maybe he went from that to pulling them out into the room, into the rule of thirds. I honestly don't know. What I can tell you is that every speaker system is so very different. Now, horns in general are very efficient. They have a certain tendency to sound like this for obvious reasons. And just to be clear, a horn uses a mechanical amplifier, an acoustic amplifier, to raise the efficiency level of the speaker up. And they do some things very nicely. I don't happen to be a fan of horns, though I will say that the only time I have ever heard a piano sound like a piano struck when you strike if you go around a piano and you strike a note, it's dramatic, it's instant, and it's loud. It's really loud. It's surprisingly loud, and very few speaker systems can do that. The only one I've ever heard accurately reproduce somebody going bang on a note and have it sound real is with a horn. Nothing else sounded too real on it. It all was kind of shouty like that. Didn't sound like music to me. But that one piano piece, wow, I can see the allure of horns. So without more information, John, I don't have really great advice how to make things better other than if they worked in the first place, put them back. But horns generally don't particularly like to be away from the wall, at least in my experience. And I am no expert on horns, given that I don't really like them all that much. But you might try pushing them back towards the wall and getting some reinforcement. Because one thing I will say, horns definitely aren't fat sounding. And the closer you get speakers to the rear wall and into the corners, the more low frequencies you're going to be able to pick up in the room, and that might be a good thing for you. So, yeah, I wish I had some better advice for you, but that's what the rule of thirds is. It works in most speaker systems and in most people's homes. It's what I use. It's where I always start, and then from there, tweak the speakers around to where they sound best. Hope that helps a little bit anyway. Wish I had a better answer for you. Thanks, John.